Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Am I not there? Can you see me now? Technical difficulties. Yeah, can you see me now? Okay, good. I apologize for the technical difficulties. Where was I? This is the Bald Eagle Podcast. I'm Shawn Cressman. I'm the Bald Eagle. The Bald Eagle Podcast is a 100% Philadelphia Eagles podcast. I'm dedicated and only talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. And I admittedly, I vary a little bit on some things. You know, for example, I might talk about our NFC East opponents. I might talk about some other things, but primarily a Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Now, my podcast has a couple of rules. Actually, before I get to the rules, I am part of the Philly Sports Alliance. You'll see that at the top left here. Philly Sports Alliance is a network of podcasts, and that's what I'm part of. So check out the Philly Sports Alliance and all their shows, and we'll recap those in a moment. But also, Philly Sports Alliance has a couple of sponsors that I want to talk about. Oh man, I got a question on Instagram already. Howie likes making trades before the deadline. Do you see anyone that they might want to go after, or who would you want them to go after? To be honest with you, I can't think of anybody that I would want them to go after. Cooper B1224. I can't think of anybody that I'd like for them to trade for or to make a move on. I think we have a very solid team. We've made some moves recently to shore up our kicker, right? We signed a kicker, and we'll talk about that. But no, I don't have anybody off the top of my head that I've been looking at or hopeful for us to trade for. So I think we're solid as is. I think we have a good shot, and I don't know anybody that's really available that's remarkable. But in any case, good question, Cooper. I appreciate the input. Any other questions? Let me know, and we'll talk about them live. Okay, so let's go to. So we're talking about Philly Sports Alliance and our sponsors, and you'll see it at the bottom here on the page. One of our sponsors is La Terrain Watches, and it's on the video here. For everybody at Instagram, it's La Terrain, LATOURAINE.com, and that's a web. La Terrain offers a bunch of accessories, has watches, among other things. I think they specialize on watches, and they have things at all price points. So if you're looking for something economical, they have some things that look great that aren't too expensive, but they also have the upper level things as well. If you put PSA in the discount code, you'll get a discount on everything. I don't know exactly what it is, but everything will be cheaper if you put PSA in there as a discount code. All right, I have another question from Instagram. Boy, they're active today. From Carter and Play. I know it's early, but what's your take on Jalen Hurts being the MVP this year? I mean, he's leading the league or at the top of the league in almost every statistic. I think he's eighth maybe in completion percentage, but a lot of those guys are going to come down over the year. Hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully he stays consistent. I'm not a fan of how much he's running, but that does add another level to his game. He has limited turnovers, only 2, which technically both of those were tipped. I think he's doing well. I would ask who else do you think could get the MVP? Who else is playing better than he is? I mean, I can't think of another team. Well, we're clearly the only undefeated team. Now, admittedly, we haven't played the most difficult games, but I think he's in the conversation. I absolutely think he's in the conversation. I'd have to look up off the top of my head. I think he leads the league in in passing yards, or he's at the top 3. Completion percentage, he's one of the highest. I'm trying to think of other other statistics. Attempts aren't really that big of a deal. Touchdowns, I don't think he's not really leading the league in passing touchdowns. I'm going to look up his exact stats right now. Let's talk about it. That's a good question. Let's look up Jalen Hurts. Okay. Let's look at passing yards. He's 5th with 1,120. Let's look at touchdowns. He is now that's where he struggles. Doesn't have a lot of touchdowns because he runs a lot. 20th. He only has 4 touchdowns. Let's see what else we have. Completion percentage. He is 8th, 66.7. Now that's gonna slowly come down as well. It's very not very common for people to be above 70 completion percentage. So I think that's going to come down as well this year. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see. I think that's really a QB rating. He is 9th. I think he's in the conversation only because of the success of the Eagles. I don't know we just went through some of his individual statistics, and they're not, he's not at the top of the league for a lot of things. But the Eagles are 4-0. The Eagles are dominant. A lot of people are talking about them as being Super Bowl contenders, and it is a lot because of his play. So I think he's in the conversation. Statistically, though, there are a couple of quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, Tua, Patrick Mahomes, that have higher quarterback ratings, higher completion percentages, and more touchdowns. So it's kind of up in the air. If he continues to progress and continues to make good decisions, and he climbs a little bit in touchdowns and QB rating overall, which includes in completion percentage and interceptions, I think he can be in the conversation. But it is, like you said, Catter and Play. It is early. Okay. All right. So there's a couple of rules that go along with my podcast. They're very important to me, so I always talk about them. The first one, which is the most important, is no politics. So we'll talk everything football. Anything you want to talk about, let's talk about. I'll be honest. I'm not going to kiss your ass. I'm going to tell you what I think. But we will not talk about politics. So it doesn't matter if you lean right or left, you're in the middle, if you're, whatever other classification you want to put yourself in. We don't talk about politics at all. So it's go ahead and comment if you want, but I'll just ignore it. I don't talk about personal information either. I don't talk about my own personal information, and I don't talk about the players' personal information because, frankly, I don't really care what they do outside of football. My only care is how they play on the field and how that affects the Eagles and their success. And then lastly, I'm not censored. I say whatever I want. So I might curse sometimes. I might, be offensive, possibly. So keep an eye out for that. Now, the thing that's different about my podcast, the Bald Eagle Podcast, is that I have the most in-depth play-by-play analysis of every regular season and postseason game. I spend hours studying the All-22 film, the tackle box view, dissecting each play, telling you what happened, and what you'll find is that you'll know a lot more about individual players on the Eagles and how they're performing throughout the season. You'll know about Jalen Hurts. Stats can only tell you so much. There's a lot more to games than just their stats. Decision making on Jalen Hurts specifically, technique. We'll talk about all those things. So, home of the most in-depth play-by-play analysis for every Eagles regular season and postseason game. All right, let's get to the countdown. We always count down to something. There's always something to look forward to. Regular season, we're generally looking forward to the next game, and that's what we're doing today. 3 days from now, we're going to go to Arizona. We're going to have an away game against the Cardinals, and we're going to reunite with our former tight end, Zach Ertz. So he's going to reunite with us. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, how well he does against our defense. But that's the countdown. 3 days to Arizona. So let's recap our season so far. Week 1, we went to Detroit. We beat them 38-35. Made us 1-0. Minnesota came to our home opener on Monday Night Football. We beat them 24-7, making us 2-0. We traveled down to Washington. Embarrassed Carson Wentz. Had one of his worst games statistically since he's been an Eagle, because he had some horrible ones as an Eagle. 24-8. That made us 3-0. And just recently we had hosted Jacksonville. Peterson came back to the link, and a more competitive game, but we still won 29-21, and that made us 4-0. I mentioned 3 days from now, week 5, we're traveling to Arizona. That's this Sunday the 9th. at 4:25 p.m. Then we come back home, Sunday Night Football against Dallas. From all the things that I hear, Dak Prescott is on track to return to play us Sunday Night Football. That is October 16th at 8:20. We then have that early week bye, week 7. Week 8, we're at home again against Pittsburgh. That's Sunday, the October 30th at 1. Week 9 at Houston, Thursday Night Football, November 3rd, 8:15. Week 10 at home against Washington. The Commanders come into the Link. Monday Night Football, November 14th, 8:15 p.m. Hopefully a very similar showing to when we went down to Washington. Week 11 at Indianapolis, Sunday, November 20th, 1 p.m. Week 12, 2 home games in a row. First against Green Bay, Sunday Night Football, November 27th at 8:20 p.m. And then at home again against Tennessee Titans, Week 13, Sunday, December 4th, 1 p.m. A string of 3 away games. First, we're at the Giants. That's Sunday, December 11th at 1. At Chicago, Week 15, Sunday, December 18th, 1. Week 16 at the Cowgirls, Saturday, December 24th, 4:25 p.m. And then we finish the season at home, Week 17 at home against the Saints, January 1st, 1 p.m. And Week 18 at home against the Giants. Still to be determined the day, which would either be the 7th or the 8th, or I guess the 9th, Monday, or the time. Actually, we're not the only team, though, that has a to be determined game on Week 18. In fact, the whole schedule is to be determined. So it's going to depend on who's doing well and what the NFL thinks people would want to watch. NFL wildcard round is January 14th and 15th. Divisional round, January 21st, 22nd. Conference championships, January 29th. And the NFL Pro Bowl flag football game, which is replacing the Pro Bowl, is February 5th, 2023 at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. And then we end our season Sunday, February 12th, 2023, Super Bowl 57, State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Hopefully that is a return to Glendale, Arizona for us, and we're playing whatever AFC team wants to lose that year. Okay, let's do a quick draft recap. And I always do these things, schedule, draft recap, because I forget shit all the time. And I could, especially when put under pressure, I don't remember anything. So constantly repeating these things helps me remember it, and I'm hopeful it does the same for you. So most recent draft, we had 5 picks and 1 trade. The first pick we had, first round, 13th overall, was defensive tackle Jordan Davis from Georgia, having an impact immediately as a rookie. A huge defensive tackle who is oftentimes immovable and is able to create cause havoc in the middle of the line. We then traded our 18th and 101st overall pick to Tennessee for wide receiver A.J. Brown. He's had an immediate, significant impact. Leads our team in receiving yards, and is a very, very physical wide receiver that's been grabbing balls out of the air from corners. Second round, 51st overall, center Cam Jurgens from Nebraska. Third round, 83rd overall, linebacker Nakobe Dean from Georgia. 6th round, 181st overall, linebacker Kyron Johnson from Kansas. And 6th round, 198th overall, tight end Grant Calcaterra from SMU. We actually initially signed, I think, about 15 or 16 undrafted free agents, but only 3 made it onto the official roster. There's more on our practice squad, but the 3 that made it onto the 53-man roster are Reed Blankenship, a safety from Middle Tennessee State, Josh Jobe, a corner from Alabama, and Josh Sills, an offensive lineman from Oklahoma State. Future drafts, 2023, we have 2 first-rounders, which is excellent, especially given the trajectory we're on now. We're on path for us to have a franchise quarterback in Hurts, which means we have 2 first-round picks to just grab talented players in positions that we need. We then have a 2nd round, a 3rd round, a 4th round, and 2 7th-rounders. And then a little bit further in the future, 2024, we have 1 first-rounder, 2 second-rounders, a 3rd, 2 4th-rounders, one of which is from Minnesota, which is conditional, could become a 5th-rounder. We have our own 5th-rounder and a 6th-rounder. Our 6th-rounder is either ours or the Titans, whichever is higher. All right, let's get to the game recap of the win against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay, so we got the first quarter. We win the toss. We defer, which is what everybody does nowadays because you'd rather have that ball after the after half. We kick off. Jacksonville starts 1st and 10 on their own 23. Lawrence is in the shotgun. They run Robinson up the middle. Reddick is able to get blocked at the hole, and TJ does a good job filling. They're able to get 5 yards. Brings up 2nd and 5. Jacksonville on their own 28. Lawrence in the gun again. We bring 4. can't get any pressure. Coverage is excellent. Lawrence throws the ball over the middle to Kirk, and Epps is able to knock it down. So good job by our defense. And I would say that's probably, and of course we've added people, right? We added Bradbury, we added Gardner Johnson as a safety. We added Kaiser White, who's an excellent cover linebacker. But our secondary, our coverage has made the most significant leap year over year. We could barely cover anybody last year, and opposing quarterbacks had I think they had the highest quarterback completion percentage against us versus any other defense, and now that's significantly changed. And that's just one thing that and now Epps wasn't a recent acquisition, but he's been a big part of it, and he's been doing well. He's actually improved significantly year over year. So that knockdown brings up 3rd and 5, Jacksonville on their 28. Lawrence in the gun again. This time he throws to the left to Kirk. We bring 4. Epps runs a safety blitz on the right side. Lawrence is able to find Kirk open in the left flat, but the pass is short and Kirk can't catch it, so it falls incomplete. That's a 3 and out, which I think we lead. I have a stat on that. I think we lead the NFL in 3 and outs. But that 3 and out means they punt. We get the ball. 1st and 10 on our 21 with 14 minutes left in the first quarter. So that whole series only took a minute off the clock. Hurts in the gun, drops back, throws left to Miles Sanders. He has good protection, but he stares Sanders down, throws a decent pass. Sanders drops it. One of the things you want to keep an eye on, staring down a receiver is very, very risky because it allows your corners and safeties to key on the person you're staring at and gives them a jump on the ball. That incompletion brings up 2nd and 10 on our 21. Hurts in the gun again. We run Sanders to the right. Kelsey pulls left. Sayamalu and Johnson do a great job blocking. Sanders is able to get up to the 2nd level for a 9-yard gain. Brings up 3rd and 1 on our 30. We're in the gun again. We run Sanders this time to the left. Jack Stoll does a poor job blocking their linebacker Allen on the left. It compresses the line of scrimmage. Robertson Harris pushes Malata to the side and is able to tackle Sanders for no gain. And you'll notice our offensive line is probably one of the best in the league, but it doesn't mean they're perfect. They make mistakes. They don't block well all the time. And that was one of those situations where they could have done a better job. Next play, 4th and 1. We have the ball on our 30. We run a sneak, and we're able to get 3 yards. Quarterback sneak with Jalen Hurts. Brings up 1st and 10 on our 33. Pascal false starts. Brings up 1st and 15 on our 28. Hurts is in the gun again. Throws a screen to Goddard. Excellent blocking downfield by Devontae Smith and Trey Sermon, who is a recent acquisition. He's able to get 8 yards on 1st and 15, bringing up 2nd and 7 on our 36. Hurts is in the gun. He fakes to Sanders, drops back. They bring 4. He has excellent protection. He's looking for Smith up the left sideline, but he's covered. It looks like he thinks about throwing to Pascal, who's running a 10-yard crossing pattern from right to left. But he'd have to throw it in between their linebacker and safety. So he waits to throw for the linebacker, for him to clear the underneath linebacker. However, that allows their free safety Cisco, who's covering the left, to peel off of his man and create an even smaller hole. So now Hurts has to throw the ball behind Pascal, which means that their corner Williams, who's on covering Pascal's in much better position, he's able to tip it in the air, and that free safety Cisco, who peeled away from his coverage, is sitting there waiting for the ball to fall into his hands. He grabs it and runs it back for a 59-yard pick 6, which is horrible. Nobody was able to tackle him, although I wouldn't say they all tried very hard. Sometimes they don't. But this is another. Again, Hurts had an okay game, and he's had a really good season. But this is one of the things that he can't do. He can't second guess himself, and he can't hesitate. If when he saw Pascal, he throws the ball, lobs it over the linebacker, which was possible. There was plenty of space. It's a completion, but he has to do it right after Pascal cuts. Waiting allowed their strong safety Jenkins to peel off that coverage I mentioned he had off to the side. He was covering Goddard, peels off and forces Hurts to throw the ball behind Pascal. If he throws it in front of Pascal, now Jenkins is there for the pick. So not a good decision by Hurts. It was still technically tipped, but it wasn't a good pass. So that is on Hurts. That turnover gives them a 7-yard or a 7-point lead. Technically, that was that makes the score 7-0. They make the extra point. That was a 59-yard drive that took 0 time off the clock and was 0 plays because it was a pick 6. So they kick off. We get the ball again. This time, 1st and 10 on our 29 with 11:09 left in the first quarter. We're in the gun. We run Miles Sanders to the left. They bring 5. Their defensive tackle Hamilton's able to shed Kelsey's block and slide down the line of scrimmage. Robertson Harrison, the defensive lineman, does the same to Dickerson. In addition to pushing him back, closing the hole, Sanders loses a yard. That's a loss of 1. So poor run blocking on that play. That brings up 2nd and 11 on our 28. Hurts in the gun again. They bring 4. Hurts has excellent protection. Goddard's wide open down the left seam. He misses him and throws underneath to Sanders. Sanders does an excellent job outrunning everybody to the right sideline. He did this twice and once was successful this game. He caught the ball on the left side of the field, cut back, ran across the field to the right. This time he outran everybody for 16 yards, so good play on him. So that brings up 1st and 10 on our 44. Hurts is in the gun. He drops back. He has excellent protection again. Unfortunately, nobody's open immediately except for Sanders underneath to the right. He feels pressure. There really wasn't any. He had a clean pocket. But instead of looking downfield, he immediately tucks the ball and runs to the left. Had he shuffled to the left or just scrambled to the left, continuing looking downfield, he would have seen Goddard crossing from right to left the same way he was going, wide open about 20 yards downfield. Again, if I were to criticize, the biggest criticism I would have of Jalen Hurts is his instinct to tuck the ball and run immediately. I think he loses a lot of opportunities in addition to exposing himself to possible injury. So I want to see him try and stay in that pocket more often. I'd much rather give up a few yard sack, him just not getting hit significantly hard, but climbing the pocket and it collapsing on him, than him running and getting injured. And because most of the time, if he climbs the pocket, people get open. So anyway, let's see, that incompletion or that scramble for 4 yards brings up 2nd and 6 on our 48. Hurts is in the gun again. It's an RPO to Sanders, but Hurts keeps it. A nice hole opens right in front of him. But for some reason, he shuffles to his left and he runs into Driscoll. So it's actually a loss of 1 yard. So that brings up 3rd and 7 on our 47. Hurts in the gun again. They bring 5. They overload the left side. Their corner Williams has a free shot around the left side of the line. So Hurts rolls right, finds Devontae Smith open down the sideline, but Smith is hit by their strong safety Jenkins right as the ball gets there and drops the pass. That brings up 4th and 7. So we punt. Jacksonville gets the ball 1st and 10 on their 20 with 8:22 left in the first quarter. They run Robinson to the left. Reddick crashes down the left, opening a wide hole for Robinson, and he gets 7 yards. Finally stopped by Epps. That brings up 2nd and 3. Jacksonville on their own 27. They run Robinson again, this time to the right. This time Reddick does a good job. He doesn't crash down. Reddick's the outside guy, so his assignment is to prevent the play from going wide around him, and then so he has contain to push it inside where all his help is. So he made that mistake the first time, but on this 2nd and 3, he doesn't do that. He pushes their tight end Ingram into the backfield and is able to make a great tackle on Robinson for a 2-yard loss. That brings up 3rd and 5. They're on their own 25. Lawrence in the gun again. We bring 4. Can't get any pressure. On the right side, TJ Edwards, Josiah Scott, and Bradbury are lined up in front of Agnew, Kirk, and Jones. Jones runs a 10-yard out. Kirk runs a 10-yard in, and both Edwards and Scott cover Kirk, leaving Agnew, who streams down the seam, wide open. Lawrence finds him, throws a quick pass before Gunnar Johnson can get there, and that gives them a 24-yard completion and a 1st and 10 on their own 49. Lawrence under center again. They fake a toss to the left, pulling our linebackers and corner Josiah Scott, who replaced Maddox because he's injured, and their tight end Arnold releases to the right flat. We all move to the left. He releases to the right flat. He has a step on Scott, who over pursued for the toss. Lawrence throws a quick, accurate pass. Most of our team is still on the other side of the field following that fake toss. So Arnold's able to get 24 yards after the catch before Scott catches up to him. So it's a 26-yard completion, gives Jacksonville the ball 1st and 10 on our 25. This time they run Robinson up the right. They did a good job blocking our whole line down to the left, leaving a nice hole for Robinson. Reddick does a good job getting around their tight end Arnold for the tackle to limit the gain to only 5 yards. That brings up 2nd and 5 on our 20. They're in the shotgun again. They run Robinson to the left. They do a good job again blocking our offensive line and on the second level our linebackers. Patrick Johnson's able to catch up to Robinson from behind, strip him, but unfortunately Kirk is there to recover the strip, so it's not a turnover. And it is a 9-yard gain. So that brings up first and goal on our 3-yard line. They're in the gun again. They run Robinson to the right. Jordan Davis, who at times is a huge monster and is not movable. People try and block him, and he essentially stands right on top of the center and rotate and moves down the line of scrimmage left and right on run plays. And this is exactly what he did on this play. He stands up, doesn't let their center Fortner move him. TJ Edwards does a good job filling the hole. Sweat pushes their tight end Manhertz inside. Robinson has nowhere to go, and Sweat and Davis combined for a tackle and a 1-yard loss. Great play by the defensive line. So that 1-yard loss brings up second and goal on our 4. Lawrence in the gun this time. Throws a pass to the right to Agnew. Gardner Johnson is man on Agnew, who goes in motion to the left, stops, turns right. Gardner Johnson over pursues to the left or doesn't cut as quickly. Agnew takes off. He's wide open in the right flat. It's an easy touchdown, and that makes the score. Kick is good. That makes the score Jacksonville 14, Philadelphia 0. That was an 8-play, 80-yard drive. Took 4 minutes and 32 seconds off the clock. They kick off. We get the ball first and 10 on our 22. 3 minutes and 44 seconds left in the first quarter. We're in the gun. Hurts is in the gun. He drops back. He fakes to Sanders. He rolls right. A.J. Brown runs a crossing pattern from left to right, finds an open spot in the zone. Hurts throws a quick, accurate pass for a 31-yard completion, catching Brown in stride. That brings up a first and 10 on Jacksonville's 47. We run Sanders up the middle for no gain. Everybody was just blocked. Wasn't real good job by our offensive line. That brings up second and 10 on Jacksonville's 47. Hurts in the gun again. Their linebacker, Allen, bull rushes Driscoll into Hurts. Hurts does a great job standing in the pocket, delivers a good ball to Smith. Smith was the only guy open. It's a 5-yard completion, brings up 3rd and 5 on Jacksonville's 42. Hurts in the gun again. We run Miles Sanders up the middle for 2 yards, brings up 4th and 3 on Jacksonville's 40. Hurts in the gun. They bring 4. The pocket begins to collapse. If Hurts climbs the pocket, he would see Watkins pulling away from their corner Griffin, wide open, deep pass, most likely a touchdown. Instead, he doesn't climb the pocket vertically. He rolls left, doesn't see Watkins. In fact, when he starts to roll left, Watkins starts to round his pattern off to the left, right, to possibly be open for him running. Nobody gets open, so he throws it away. So again, so we're talking Jalen Hurts doing a good job, doing a better job than he did last year, better job than Wentz did, but still needs to work on climbing the pocket, needs to continue looking downfield and not just tuck the ball and run as much as he does. And I'm not saying he has to eliminate running completely. Maybe 20-30% of the time he could have just climbed the pocket, maybe more than that. I'd have to add it all up, but the point is he needs to work on staying in the pocket a little bit more, looking downfield a little bit more, bigger plays, more first downs, less risk of injury. All right, let's see, where were we? So after that, so after he throws that ball away, that was 4th and 3. We give the ball up on downs to Jacksonville. They get 1st and 10 on their 40 with 1:14 left in the first quarter. Lawrence in the gun. They run ETN to the right for 5 yards, stopped by Sweat and Davis. 2nd and 5, Jacksonville on their own 45. Lawrence in the gun again. They throw a screen to Agnew. It's well blocked on their behalf, and he's able to get 14 yards before TJ Edwards stops him. And that will end the first quarter, score being 14-0 in favor of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, while I'm at it, since we're in between quarters, check out another one of our partners. We've partnered with a couple of people. One of them is the Painted Lines. So check out the Painted Lines on all their social media. We stream, and I'm currently streaming to, I think, their YouTube. They stream to some of our channels. It's a great partnership, and they're a great company, a media company. They also have other types of sports blogs and podcasts. But check out the Painted Lines. That's going to be scrolling down for the next quarter. All right, let's get to the second quarter. So Jacksonville still has the ball. They got a 1st and 10 on our 41. Lawrence in the gun. We bring 5. Davis gets inside his man, and Reddick contains Lawrence from the right. Davis hits Lawrence right after he throws. Downfield, Agnew runs a stop and go that both McPherson and Epps fall for completely. Agnew is wide open. But fortunately, the ball is overthrown, possibly because of the pressure that Davis was putting on Lawrence right before he threw the ball. So the ball is overthrown and it falls incomplete. If the ball is more accurate, it's a touchdown. Agnew catches it, jogs into the end zone, and they're up 21-0. But that pressure, and that's why that's so important. That's why it's important that you get pressure not only with only your 4, but in general, because if the secondary breaks down, if for some reason somebody falls for a move like that, a stop and go, which they both, Epps and McPherson both fell for, you can pressure the quarterback and cause an errant throw, which is exactly what happened. So that's the value of both teams, in taking intervals at playing well. Coverage does well when the defensive line can't get to the quarterback. Defensive line gets to the quarterback when the coverage breaks down. All right, so after that, that's a 2nd and 10. They have the ball on our 41. Lawrence under center. We bring 4. Can't get any pressure. Lawrence throws to Hasty in the left flat. Gardner Johnson misses the tackle. He's able to get a few extra yards after the catch for 7 yards. And that brings up a 3rd and 3 on our 34. Lawrence in the gun. They run ETN to the left. Their offensive line crashes to the right. Lawrence rolls that way and hands off to ETN, who's running to the left. So they have their whole offensive line and the rest of their team moving in one direction. ETN goes in that direction, plants, and then changes direction to run to the left. Cox and Hargrave do a great job slipping through their blocks. They hit ETN in the backfield. Unfortunately, they don't wrap and they don't knock him down. Otherwise, it would have been a loss. On his way back, Sweat is able to throw left tackle Robinson to the side as ETN approaches, and he tackles him for no gain. So better than a gain, but could have been a negative play. Anyway, that brings up 4th and 3 on our 34. Lawrence is in the gun again. We bring 4. Coverage is excellent. Reddick and Cox are on the right. Reddick bull rushes his man, and Cox slides inside of his. They both meet at Lawrence, forcing him to roll to the right. As he begins to roll, coverage breaks down. Their wide receiver Jones gets open, but Lawrence loses. This is the play where he loses grip of the football, is not touched, starts to run, loses grip of the football. Again, another fortunate play on our behalf because their wide receiver Jones is open downfield, but he drops the ball, he fumbles it, and Fletcher Cox is there to jump on it. So great job by Fletcher Cox being there to jump on the ball, putting pressure on the quarterback, and causing technically causing a turnover, right? He was just running and he dropped it, but he was still under pressure. So we'll count it. So we get the ball 1st and 10 on our 43 with 13:26 left in the first half. Hurts in the gun. He drops back, throws a screen to Gainwell. Their linebacker, Olukan, reads it well and catches Gainwell from behind. Their linebacker, Olukan, which hopefully I'm pronouncing right, had an excellent game against us. He seems like a solid linebacker. So after that 2-yard loss, it's 2nd and 12 on our 41. Hurts in the gun again. They bring 4. Their linebacker, K, bull rushes Driscoll into Hurts, who rolls right. He then throws a quick, accurate pass to Pascal, but Pascal drops it. Fortunately, Griffin, their safety Griffin, was holding. It's a 5-yard penalty and a 1st and 10. So we have a 1st and 10 on our 46. Hurts in the gun again. They bring 4. He has great protection. They're in zone. A.J. Brown runs a 5-yard and out and cuts right behind the zone coverage. Hurts finds him, throws a quick, accurate pass. A.J. Brown runs for an extra couple of yards for 18 yards. That gives us a 1st and 10 on Jacksonville's 36. Hurts in the gun again, throws a screen to Goddard. We have great job blocking outside by Watkins. It springs Goddard for 26 yards. And that gives us a 1st and 10 on Jacksonville's 1st and goal on Jacksonville's 10. Hurts is in the gun. We have 2 receivers stacked on both sides. Goddard is in the front. A.J. Brown's behind him on the left. Hurts fakes to Sanders, starts running to his left. Goddard runs towards their strong safety Jenkins and their corner Campbell, who are both in coverage. He gets in the way. Brown stays at the line of scrimmage, kind of stands there. Hurts throws to Brown, puts a good move on their corner Campbell, and gets in the end zone untouched. Unfortunately, Goddard made too much contact before or during the ball was being thrown, so it was called pass interference, and we are now 1st and goal on our 20. We're in the gun. We hand off to Sanders to the left. Sayamalu and Kelsey open a big hole for Sanders, but he sees Oluokun in the hole, their linebacker, tries to string it out, but Oluokun again is able to outrun him and force him out of bounds for a 1-yard loss. So you'll find early on in the game, Sanders was a little bit rough. He missed a couple of holes, and at times when he saw the hole open and he saw a linebacker, he would try and string it out, and he didn't have any success stringing these plays out. So, but you'll find as we get through the game, he started to, I think, run more instinctively, and did an excellent job finding small seams and running behind his blocks and even setting up blocks. And we'll talk about that more. Later. So after that 1-yard loss, second and goal on Jacksonville's 21. Hurts is in the gun. They bring 3. We provide good perfection for Hurts. Smith finds a spot in the zone. Hurts throws a quick, accurate pass for 5 yards. Brings up third and goal on Jacksonville's 16. Hurts in the gun again. He drops back. Stoll is wide open over the middle, but there's also a huge hole open in front of the offensive line. So this is what I'm talking about. Hurts has the choice. Do I run straight ahead or do I throw the ball to Stoll, who's wide open over the middle? Now, I can't guarantee that Stoll scores a touchdown if he does throw the ball to him. I feel like he gets almost down to the 3 like Hurts did because he ran. So probably not a difference in yardage. However, Hurts does not get hit as he does when he scrambles up the middle. So that 13-yard scramble gives us a 4th and goal on Jacksonville's 3. Hurts in the gun again. They bring 4. We provide good protection. Gainwell is wide open in the right flat. If Hurts climbs the pocket, throws a quick pass to Gainwell, it is an easy touchdown. He can easily run it in. If he's contested at all, he can easily make it to the pylon before anybody else, and it's a touchdown. Instead, Hurts again runs straight ahead. There was a lane. And as he gets to the end zone, he's hit by their linebacker, Lloyd, hit pretty hard too. He still scores, but again, exposing himself to possible injury. We kick the extra point. That brings the score to 14-7 in favor of the Jaguars. That was a 7-play, 57-yard drive. Took 4 minutes and 13 seconds off the clock. We kick off. They start their next drive 1st and 10 on their 25 with 9 minutes and 13 seconds left in the half. Lawrence in the gun, throws the screen to Kirk. Kirk drops the ball. I think it was pretty well blocked too, so fortunately he drops it and falls incomplete. Brings up 2nd and 10. Lawrence in the gun again. Throw another screen. This time on the left-hand side to Jones. It's thrown too high. Goes through Jones' hands. Falls incomplete. That brings up 3rd and 10. Jacksonville on their 25. Lawrence in the gun. They run ETN to the right. Cox jumps inside and bull rushes their center Fortner. Graham goes outside their right tackle Taylor, and they meet at ETN and tackle him for no gain. Excellent play by Graham and Cox. That brings up 4th and 10. Jacksonville on their 25, so they punt. We get the ball 1st and 10 on our 29 with 8 minutes and 24 seconds left in the first half. Jacksonville encroaches. That's a 5-yard penalty, so we get 1st and 5 on our 34. Hurts in the gun. We run Miles Sanders to the right. This time, Miles Sanders does a great job following his blocks, and Oluokun gets a shoestring tackle. Otherwise, it would have been a much longer run. Still 8 yards. 1st and 10 on our 42. Hurts in the gun. Throws a screen to Goddard for 7 yards. Brings up 2nd and 3 on our 49. Hurts in the gun again. Hands to Sanders to the right. Kelsey blocks right. Dickerson blocks left, and there is a huge hole. After Kelsey blocks right and creates an opening, he then goes downfield and blocks Oluokun, their linebacker. Sanders does a great job following his blocks for a 13-yard run. Brings up 1st and 10 on Jacksonville's 38. We're in the shotgun again. We run the same play. This time, Sanders sees their linebacker Lloyd in the hole, bounces it out one gap to the right behind Sayamalu, still gets 5 yards. Not a bad run. There's some space around Sayamalu. He didn't string it out all the way. He just jumped over one gap. So that brings up 2nd and 5 on Jacksonville's 33. We run Sanders again, this time to the left. This time he gets 4 yards. Brings up 3rd and 1 on Jacksonville's 29. Hurts is in the gun, and he's under center, and he sneaks it for 1 yard on 3rd and 1 for a 1st and 10 on Jacksonville's 28. He's in the gun this time. He runs an RPO, which is a run-pass option. He gives it to Sermon. Allen stays with Hurts, leaving the left side wide open. Sermon runs for 14 yards before he's tackled by Oluokun. And that gives us a 1st and 10 on Jacksonville's 14. Hurts in the gun again, runs another RPO. This time he keeps it. This time their linebacker Allen goes after Sermon, thinking he's going to get the ball. So Hurts keeps it, runs for 4 yards, brings up 2nd and 6 on Jacksonville's 10-yard line. We're in the gun again. We run Sanders to the right. Lane Johnson blocks right. Sayamalu blocks left. Kelsey pulls, leads Sanders through the hole. He blocks their free safety Cisco, gets in their corner Griffin's way, and leads Sanders all the way into the end zone. Excellent job blocking by both Sayamalu, Kelsey, especially Kelsey, who initially blocked to open up the hole and then went downfield and got at least 3 people's way to spring Sanders for the touchdown. An excellent job by Sanders following those blocks through. So it was a 10-yard touchdown run. The extra point is good. That ties the score at 14. That was a 9-play, 71-yard drive that took 4 minutes and 29 seconds off the clock. We kick off. Jacksonville starts their next drive, 1st and 10 on their own 25 with 3 minutes and 55 seconds left in the half. Lawrence in the gun, drops back, throws to Kirk on the right-hand side. We bring 4. Reddick is wide right. Cox is right inside of him. They run a cross stunt, which we talk about often. We struggled, frankly, against that last year, but have improved significantly. They run a cross stunt, which basically means Reddick starts out wide right. Cox is inside of him. They basically begin to block and then switch. Cox on his outside gets a free shot at Lawrence, who's able to get the ball out just in time to Kirk. Kirk is well covered by Epps and Kaiser White, hit immediately, and the ball falls incomplete. So that brings up 2nd and 10, Jacksonville on their 25. Lawrence in the gun. They run ETN up the middle. Cox crashes down to the right. Reddick stays wide and contain, unsure if Lawrence is going to keep it. He hands to ETN, and Reddick can't quite get to him because he was a little too far wide and contain. So ETN gets 9 yards. That brings up a 3rd and 1, Jacksonville on their own 34. Lawrence attempts to sneak the ball, and the snap is fumbled. And Reddick is able to fall on it. So at his first fumble recovery of the game. So we get the ball 1st and 10 on Jacksonville's 35 with 3 minutes left in the game. Hurts in the gun. It's an RPO. He keeps it, runs left for 1 yard. Brings up 2nd and 9 on Jacksonville's 34. Hurts in the gun again. Fakes to Sanders. A.J. Brown runs a 5-yard and in. So he runs out 5 yards, turns to the right inside. Actually, I don't know what side of the line he's on. So he turns towards the inside of the field. Hurts turns, throws a quick, accurate pass to Brown. Brown always gets extra yards after the catch. This time it was 8 for a 13-yard completion, and that hits the 2-minute warning. We have 1st and 10 on Jacksonville's 21. Hurts is in the gun. We run Sanders to the right. Their defensive lineman, Robert Harrison, is able to get inside on Dickerson. Kelsey pulls to lead block, but has to help Dickerson. Sanders sees that Robertson Harris is a little bit upfield, and instead of cutting upfield behind Kelsey, he tries to string it out. Their linebacker Walker is able to catch his feet just enough to cause them to lose balance and fall for a 2-yard loss. So again, Sanders strings it out after seeing the things are a little jumbled, but he could have cut up one of the blocks instead of essentially panicking because somebody was a little too far deep in the backfield. So that brings up 2nd and 12 on Jacksonville's 23. Hurts in the gun again. We run Sanders to the left. The whole offensive line does a great job blocking, and he's able to get 10 yards. Jacksonville calls their first timeout of the half with 1 minute and 15 seconds left. We got 3rd and 2 on Jacksonville's 13. Hurts in the gun again. We run Sanders up the middle. Sayamalu gets beat by their defensive tackle Hamilton. Johnson gets beat by the defensive line Gotsis, and Sanders has nowhere to go. Only gets a yard. Jacksonville calls their second timeout with 1 minute and 10 seconds left in the half. We got 4th and 1 on Jacksonville's 12. Jalen Hurts runs a quarterback sneak, gets 2 yards, gives us a 1st and goal on Jacksonville's 10 with 33 seconds left in the half. Hurts in the gun. They bring 5. Goddard runs straight towards the end zone, creating a natural pick. He doesn't purposely get in the way on their linebacker Oluwakan, who's supposed to be in coverage against Gainwell. Hurts has decent protection, but throws the ball high and outside. Gainwell tries to catch it. It would have been a difficult catch to make, and if he had made it, most likely time would have run out before he was able to get out of bounds or a touchdown. So not horrible that it falls incomplete and time stops. That brings 2nd and goal on Jacksonville's 10. We're in the gun again. Dickerson drives his man to the right, creating a huge hole. Gainwell runs right up the middle, untouched for a 10-yard touchdown. The extra point is actually no good, so that makes the score us 20. The Jaguars 14. That was an 8-play, 35-yard drive. Took 2 minutes and 34 seconds. We kick the ball off. They start 1st and 10 on their 25 with 26 seconds left in the half. They run Robinson up the middle. Brandon Graham does a good job sliding down the line of scrimmage, makes a tackle for a 3-yard gain, and that ends the half. Now, since it's the half, let's talk about another partner of ours here at the Philly Sports Alliance. We've partnered with another company called Six Pack Coverage. Just like the Painted Lines, we have a partnership with Six Pack Coverage to stream on some of their platforms. They stream on our platforms. The thing about Six Pack Coverage is that they are a much larger media company. I think they're out of Tennessee, if that means anything to you. But they have podcasts on everything, not just on sports, which they do have. But they also have podcasts on food, entertainment, finance, health, fitness. So almost anything that you have questions about or would want to know about, they have a podcast for. So check them out. Six Pack Coverage. That's going to be scrolling at the bottom for the third quarter. All right. After the half, we get the ball. We did defer at the beginning of the game, so we get the ball 1st and 10 on our 30 with 14:53 left in the third quarter. Third quarter. Hurts in the gun. He fakes to Sanders. Has good protection. Throws a quick, accurate pass to Brown, who's wide open, running a post pattern. It's a 22-yard completion. Brings up 1st and 10 on Jacksonville's 48. We run in the shotgun again. They bring 4. Initially, Hurts has good protection, but nobody's open. Good coverage. Sanders is open underneath, but Hurts seems to not like to dump it off underneath. He seems like he's looking for the downfield play, which is probably why we have the most explosive plays in the league. Their linebacker Allen bull rushes Driscoll, who's in for Malata. Hurts attempts to roll to his right, and just as he does, Watkins gets separation on a deep pattern, but Hurts trips on Driscoll's leg, falls down, and he's touched down for a 10-yard loss and technically a sack. So an unfortunate play because somebody was open and had Hurts scrambled and gotten some time. It could have been a big play downfield. That 10-yard loss brings up 2nd and 20 on our 42. Hurts throws a screen to Goddard, who was covered. Instead of it being a good pass, it's thrown to the ground incomplete. That brings up 3rd and 20 on our 42. Hurts in the gun again. They bring 4. We provide good protection. Hurts has plenty of time. Finds A.J. Brown open on a deep curl, but it's only 11 yards. They most likely gave us some space there. It's only an 11-yard completion on 3rd and 20, so it brings up 4th and 9. We punt. The Jacksonville Jaguars start their next drive, 1st and 10 on their 17 with 12 minutes and 41 seconds left in the third quarter. Lawrence is in the gun. We bring 4. We can't get any pressure. Lawrence rolls right. We have excellent coverage downfield. TJ Edwards comes towards Lawrence. Lawrence pump fakes to try and throw him off. He doesn't fall for it. TJ Edwards continues straight to Lawrence, tackles him, sacks him technically for a 0-yard gain. That sack brings up 2nd and 10 on Jacksonville's 17. Lawrence in the gun again. We bring 4. Can't get any pressure. Kirk flashes open. Lawrence throws a low pass, and Scott is able to hit Kirk right as the pass gets there. It falls incomplete. Good coverage by Cox. Good coverage by Scott. Cox also did put pressure on Lawrence to force the throw. So that brings up 3rd and 10 on Jacksonville on their own 17. Lawrence in the gun again. We bring 4. Can't get any pressure. Lawrence rolls right. No one's open except Agnew. But Lawrence has to throw across his body to the left. Very difficult to do, even for NFL quarterbacks. The pass is poor. It's short. It falls incomplete, and that's a 3 and out. They punt. We start our next drive, 1st and 10 on our 22 with 11 minutes and 39 seconds left in the third quarter. We run Sanders to the left for 5 yards. Partially the reason he was able to get 5 yards was because Sayamalo held. Jacksonville's, I think, linebacker Allen uses his hands illegally, so those penalties offset. We replay 1st and 10 on our 22. Hurts in the gun. It's a screen to Sanders. This time Sanders cuts across the field again, so it starts off left to Miles Sanders. He jumps back, runs through an arm tackle, attempts to outrun everybody across the field, and he's able to, with one exception. Their corner Griffin grabs Sanders literally by his ankle. If he's able to outrun Griffin, there's a lot of green ahead. So good try, good attempt by Sanders, but an equally good play by Griffin. So that 6-yard completion brings up 2nd and 4 on our 28. We run Gainwell to the right for 1 yard. Brings up 3rd and 3 on our 29. Hurts in the gun again. He drops back. Their defensive lineman Gotsis bull rushes Sayamalu into Hurts, gets his hands up, knocks the ball down. I don't know if Watkins was open anyway, but the ball falls incomplete. That brings up 4th and 3 on our 29, so we punt. Jacksonville starts their next drive, 1st and 10 on their own 28 with 9 minutes and 42 seconds left in the third quarter. Lawrence in the gun. They run ETN up the middle. We bring 4, but we drop Sweat and we blitz Gardner Johnson. Davis goes right around their center foreigner into the backfield, tackles ETN for a 1-yard loss. Great play by Jordan Davis. Brings up 2nd and 11, Jacksonville on their own 27. Lawrence in the gun. We bring 5, including Edwards and Scott on a blitz from the right. We still can't get any pressure. We're in zone. Sweat is on the right side and is supposed to cover the shallow middle. He's too far outside towards the sideline. Engram finds a wide open spot over in his area. It's a 16-yard completion, and that gives Jacksonville a 1st and 10 on their 43. They run ETN this time to the left. TJ Edwards does a great job filling the hole and stops ETN for only a gain of 2. Jacksonville calls their first timeout with 7:51 left in the third quarter. That gives them a 2nd and 8 on their own 45. Lawrence under center throws a screen to Hasty. It's well blocked downfield, and they get 15 yards, eventually stopped by Josiah Scott and TJ Edwards. Brings up 1st and 10 on our 40. They run ETN to the left for 6 yards, stopped by Edwards and Tua Palatu. Brings up 2nd and 4 on our 34. Lawrence under center drops back. He rolls right, has plenty of time, but coverage is excellent. Throws to Ingram, who's covered well by Scott. Scott breaks up the catch. Unfortunately, the reason Scott was covering Engram so well is because at the top of the route when Engram broke, Scott pulled on his jersey. Officials saw that, called holding. It's a 5-yard penalty and an automatic first down. So Jacksonville has the ball 1st and 10 on our 29. They run Kirk to the left. Kirk goes in motion from left to right. Lawrence hikes the ball, immediately hands it to him. Gardner Johnson isn't quite able to get to him, but Bradbury's there to limit the gain to only 3 yards. So that brings up 2nd and 7 on our 26. Lawrence in the gun, runs an RPO. Lawrence keeps it to the right and is able to get 7 yards before Scott and Kaiser White stop him. That brings up 1st and 10 on our 19. They run Robinson to the right. Sweat gets a little too deep on his contain, is able to get around him. He's able to get 3 yards on 1st and 10, brings up 2nd and 7 on our 16. Lawrence is in the gun. We bring 7, including Scott blitzing from the left. Bradbury is on Jones deep. Kirk runs underneath and is open. Bradbury sees Lawrence looking at Kirk, peels off his deep man Jones. The pass is thrown slightly behind Kirk, who has to turn around and backpedal to try and catch the ball. Scott was leaping in the face of Lawrence, so that pressure was helping force the errant throw. Bradbury is able to again peel off of Kirk deep, watching Lawrence's eyes. The ball is not thrown hard, is thrown a little short, and Bradbury is able to jump in front of it and pick it off. So great play by Bradbury, great play by Scott to get in his face, and great call to rush at that situation. So we get the ball 1st and 10 on our 12 with 4 minutes and 17 seconds left in the third quarter. We run Sanders to the left for 3 yards, brings up 2nd and 7 on our 15. Hurts is in the gun, Sanders to his right. He hands the ball off. Sayamalu blocks right, Kelsey blocks straight, Dickerson blocks left. Sanders hits the hole between Sayamalu and Kelsey. So he's on the right-hand side between Kelsey and Sayamalu. He has Olakun staring right at him. So Sanders cuts left between Dickerson and Kelsey. That puts Kelsey in the way of Olakun. Sanders runs straight right through the hole, and there's no one in the second level. He's able to get 35 yards before he's tackled. So when I mentioned earlier that initially he was kind of stringing things out and not following his blocks, this is a situation where Sanders sets up his blocking. He has 2 people blocking right and left, and then he has a center blocking, and then he has a linebacker in the hole. He forces the linebacker to commit to one of the holes and then crosses over to the next one and just goes right through it, causing that middle blocker to be in the way. So excellent job by Sanders setting up his own blocks, and a great run for 35 yards. So that brings up 1st and 10 on midfield. We run Sanders again to the left for 6 yards. 2nd and 4 on Jacksonville's 44. We run Sermon to the left for 5 yards. In addition, their Robertson-Harris face masks. I think it was Sermon that he face masked. That's a 15-yard penalty, gives us 1st and 10 on Jacksonville's 24. We're in the gun. Kelsey snaps the ball when Hurts isn't looking. Hurts can't catch it. Fortunately, Sanders jumps on it, but it is a waste of a down and a loss of 7. That brings up 2nd and 17 on Jacksonville's 31. Hurts in the gun again. Trips left. We throw a screen to Goddard for 9 yards. Brings up 3rd and 8 on Jacksonville's 22. Hurts in the gun again. He drops back. They bring 5. We have good protection, but no one's open. Hurts runs straight ahead, and their defensive line got this. Sheds Kelsey's block to the left. Smoot shelled Sayamalo's block to the right. They meet Hurts for a 3-yard loss. Being a Monday night, being they call it a Monday night, Monday afternoon, Monday morning quarterback. It's easy to pick apart the things that Hurts did poorly. I'm not saying that Hurts did anything wrong. He attempted to climb the pocket, although I think he was trying to run. However, had he instead of trying to run forward, had he just dropped back, and he had good protection. It wasn't like he was getting pressure. He could have just took a couple steps backward. He would have found AJ Brown was wide open, and could have changed what turned into a 3-yard and a sack into a long completion. So we got 4th and 11 on Jacksonville's 25. We kick a field goal. But their corner Campbell hits Elliott, hits his plant foot, which causes the ankle injury. It's roughing the kicker. It's a 13-yard penalty. It gives us 1st and 10 on Jacksonville's 12, but that begins the 4th quarter. Before we start the fourth quarter, though, let's talk about one more thing that I want you guys to check out. I mentioned it a bunch of times, but I'm part of the Philly Sports Network or Philly Sports Alliance podcast network. Follow all their socials. Follow everything. I mean, we're a great network. We have almost every sport covered. We have every sport covered. Every Philadelphia sport team. So check us out on all socials: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Check us out on all platforms. Like, follow, share. Even if you can't watch a show, when you see it pop up that it's on, just share it to your timeline, and then go back to work or go back to whatever you were doing. That way, all your friends see the show, and you might have friends that are interested in what we have here to offer, and then maybe they share it. So just keep sharing, keep liking, keep commenting. And interacting. Again, no matter what platform you're on, you can comment now, and I will, if it's on Instagram, I'll bring up your comment on air and we'll talk about it. On any other platform, I can actually show your comment on air. So comment and check us out and look at all of our shows, Philly Sports Alliance, and I'll go through them all. You can see them there on the right. I'll go through them all at the end of the show. All right, let's get to the 4th quarter. After that we made the field goal, but then there was kicking on. There was a roughing the kicker on Campbell, so we get a 1st down. We take back the points off the board and try and score a touchdown. So we have 1st and 10 on Jacksonville's 12. We run Sanders to the left. He misses the hole between Stoll and Dickerson, tries to string it out, and is pushed out of bounds for no gain. That brings up 2nd and 10 on Jacksonville's 12. We're in the gun. We run Sanders to the right again. This time he gets 2 yards. Brings up 3rd and 8 on Jacksonville's 10. We're in the gun. We have trips left. A.J. Brown is outside. Stoll is in the middle. Goddard's on the inside. Stoll runs deep. Brown runs a quick slant. Goddard runs a shallow post. So we have a pattern going straight up and down. We have a pattern going towards the post of the goal post is what a post is. And then we have Brown running a quick slant, so 5 yards, and then down the line of scrimmage. Hurts has great protection. Goddard is open over the middle. Hurts throws a quick, accurate pass slightly behind Goddard. Goddard has to slow down, but he still gets both hands on it, but he can't catch it. Drops it. Would have been a touchdown. Good job by Hurts finding Goddard. Good job running a route and getting open. Good job by the offensive line giving him protection, but bad job by Goddard dropping the ball. So we end up kicking another field goal. This time it's 28 yards. This time it's good. No penalties. So the score is now 23-14 in favor of your Philadelphia Eagles. That was an 11-play, 78-yard drive that took 5 minutes and 35 seconds off the clock. We kick off. Jacksonville starts their next drive, 1st and 10 on their 20 with 13 minutes and 36 seconds left in the game. Lawrence in the gun. They run ETN to the left. I'm sorry. It's a toss left. We over pursue to that side, creating a lane for ETN to run through. He gets 11 yards, eventually stopped by Jordan Davis. Brings up 1st and 10, Jacksonville on their own 31. Lawrence in the gun, throws a screen to Manhertz. Hargrave slides down the line of scrimmage, doesn't allow himself to get blocked, hits Manhertz for no gain. Excellent play by Hargrave. Brings up 2nd and 10, Jacksonville on their 31. Lawrence in the gun, we bring 5. Initially, we're not able to get any kind of a pressure. No one's open downfield. We have excellent coverage. Reddick is wide right. He engages their right tackle Taylor, slips around the outside of him, and strip sacks Lawrence. Brandon Graham tries to grab the ball, pushes it forward, and Reddick's able to jump on it. So great play by Reddick to get around his man, strip sack instead of trying to. And he reaches out. He couldn't have hit Lawrence, but he's able to knock the ball out of his hand and then be aware to jump on it when it's on the ground. So another fumble forced by Reddick. This time another fumble recovery by Reddick. So great job. And you'll find out that he was recognized for his excellent performance. So we get the ball 1st and 10 on Jacksonville's 24 with 12 minutes and 6 seconds left in the game. We run Miles Sanders to the right. The hole is blocked. This side, instead of stringing it out to the sideline, he cuts under a Lane Johnson block. So the hole is blocked. He jumps out one more hole, goes behind Lane Johnson, makes a quick jump cut to the left, which avoids their strong safety Jenkins and their linebacker Allen, and then runs straight ahead for another 3 yards. Only a 5-yard run. But you should, when you watch it, you can appreciate how he works his way in through all these blocks and gets 5 yards when otherwise most likely wouldn't have gotten anything. Hurts in the gun again. I'm sorry, that brings up 2nd and 5 on Jacksonville's 19. Hurts in the gun again. He runs the RPO. He keeps it. He doesn't get any yards. Their defensive end or linebacker Lloyd does a good job playing with it. Sayamalu was actually injured on this play, and I don't think he came back. 3rd and 5 on Jacksonville's 19. Hurts in the gun, trips right. They bring 5. We pick it up. Smith runs a 5-yard curl. Hurts throws a quick, accurate pass low and outside, so Griffin can't get to it. It was in coverage. It's a 7-yard completion. 1st and 10 on Jacksonville's 12. Hurts in the gun again. We run Gainwell this time to the left. Unfortunately, Goddard, again, he needs to work on his blocking. I don't look at every time he blocks, but oftentimes his block is the difference between this, which is a 3-yard gain. Aluakan is able to shed his block easily and stop Gainwell for 3 yards. However, if Goddard does a better job blocking, much more yards available for Gainwell. So, and I've mentioned Goddard. He had a rough game, dropped a pass, missed a couple of blocks. He's got to really work on. I'd say Goddard's got to work on blocking primarily. So that brings up a 2nd and 7. We have the ball on Jacksonville's 9. This time we run Gainwell to the left. Their defensive lineman, Robertson Harris, pushes Lane Johnson into the backfield. Gainwell feels the pressure, misses the hole, bounces outside, doesn't get any yardage. We had 2 penalties on that play again. Offensive holding by Driscoll, illegal use of hands by Robertson. They offset, so we got 2nd and 7 on Jacksonville's 9 again. We're in the gun. We run Sanders to the right. This time, Robertson Harris pushes Driscoll into the backfield. Sanders cuts left. Robertson Harris follows. Driscoll turns his body, creating a block to his right. Sanders cuts back to the right, goes right up the field, right where the hole's supposed to be, and there's a nice clean lane. Again, only 4 yards, so we're not talking about a long run, but could have been a negative play had Sanders let that pressure or penetration into the backfield throw him off. But this time again, he sets his block up. He runs to the left, causing that defensive end to move to his left, allowing Driscoll to turn to the left. And now he's got Driscoll's block or back to him and a nice little lane that he runs through. So another good job by Sanders setting up blocks. That brings up 3rd and 3 on Jacksonville's 5. We're in the shotgun. Goddard lines up on the left, does an excellent job this time blocking their linebacker Allen down. Opeta pulls left. Sanders runs behind him and to the left. Their linebacker Lloyd moves to the left in pursuit. Sanders cuts right, putting Opeta in perfect position to block Lloyd. Sanders runs through a tackle by Gotsis and scores a 5-yard touchdown. Again, Sanders setting up blocks, running to the left side of Opeta, causing pursuit to be on the left side, and then cutting to the right, creating a great opportunity for Opeta to block. All successful. We attempt a 2-point conversion. We try and make it a 17-point lead, right? Because that would make it 2 touchdowns and a field goal instead of just 2 touchdowns. Actually, it would have been 2 touchdowns, and one of those would have been would have had to have been a 2-point conversion to tie it. Hurts throws a back shoulder pass to Devontae Smith on the right-hand side. It's a little short. Smith drops for it, can't get it, and it's incomplete. So that attempt fails. That makes the score 29-14 in favor of your Philadelphia Eagles. That was a 6-play, 24-yard drive with 3 minutes and 17 seconds off the clock. We kick off. Jacksonville starts their next drive 1st and 10 on their 32 with 8 minutes and 43 seconds left in the game. Lawrence in the gun. We bring 4. Can't get any pressure. Gardner Johnson has inside position on Kirk, who runs an out pattern, so he's immediately out of position. Immediately has a step on Gardner Johnson. Lawrence throws an accurate pass, but fortunately for us, Kirk drops it. So it falls incomplete, 2nd and 10, Jacksonville on their own 32. Lawrence in the gun again. We bring 4 again. We can't get pressure. Bradbury gives Kirk a nice 10-yard cushion. Kirk cuts underneath him. Lawrence throws a quick, accurate pass. Bradbury hits immediately, but it still is a 15-yard completion, and that brings up 1st and 10, Jacksonville on their own 47. Lawrence in the gun again. We bring 4. Again, we can't get to him. McPherson gives their wide receiver Jones a good 6+ yard cushion. Jones runs straight out, stops short. Lawrence throws a quick, accurate pass. McPherson can't respond quick enough, but again, fortunately, Jones drops it. Another drop ball. So that incompletion brings up 2nd and 10, Jacksonville on their own 47. Lawrence in the gun again. We bring 4. Initially, we're unable to get pressure, but coverage is excellent downfield. Nobody's open. We end up getting to Lawrence slightly, causing him to roll to his left. Nobody's open again. He throws it away. So great job by the secondary in coverage. Brings up 3rd and 10, Jacksonville on their 47. Lawrence in the gun again. We bring 4. We can't get pressure again. We're in man. Scott is on Kirk. Kirk runs straight out, takes a step to the right. Scott thinks he's going to cut. Scott stops, plants his foot forward to stop that short route. Kirk steps to the left and just runs right by Josiah Scott. Wide open. Lawrence sees him, throws the ball a little bit short, but Kirk's able to catch it for a 45-yard completion before Gardner Johnson's able to run him down. So, bad play by Scott. Bad. It goes for and it wasn't even I had to actually watch the play numerous times to see the step to the right that Kirk takes. It's not a real big fake, but Josiah Scott bites hard and he's wide open. 45-yard pass play on 3rd and 10. Pass play. So that gives them 1st and goal on our 8. Lawrence is in the gun. We bring 4. Can't get to Lawrence. Scott's man on Agnew. He gives him a good 5 yards, and he is late to react. It's almost like maybe Scott was looking at Agnew and didn't know the ball was in the air, because he doesn't actually start running towards Agnew until the ball is halfway there. Agnew starts running up the field. Scott's running like crazy to try and stop him. Agnew stops. Lets Scott run past him and out of bounds. Turns around, falls into the end zone right as McPherson's hitting him. Another bad play by Scott, and it cost us not only 45 yards, but a touchdown. So they kick the extra point. It's good. That makes the score 29-21 in favor of your Philadelphia Eagles. That was a 6-play, 68-yard drive that took 1 minute and 30 seconds off the clock. They kick off. We start our next drive 1st and 10 on the 25 with 7 minutes and 19 seconds left in the game. Hurts is in the shotgun, runs an RPO, keeps it, and is able to get 8 yards before Griffin tackles him. Brings up 2nd and 2 on our 33. We run Sanders to the left for 3 yards. Brings up 1st and 10 on our 36. We run Sanders up the middle for 2 yards. Nothing special happened on these plays. There were a little bit of holes. The offensive line did a decent job blocking up front. But we weren't able to block on the second level. I don't think we sent anybody into the second level. So Sanders went up the hole and was tackled pretty quickly after he gets through the hole by one of their linebackers. That brings up 2nd and 8 on our 38. Hurts in the gun. They bring 4. We pick it up. Goddard runs straight up the field. Gainwell runs over the middle out of the backfield, takes both their linebacker Oluokun and Lloyd with him, leaving Goddard wide open. Nobody covers him. Hurts finds him for a quick, accurate pass, a 22-yard completion. That brings up 1st and 10. We have the ball on Jacksonville's 40. We run Gainwell to the right for 4 yards, brings up 2nd and 6 on Jacksonville's 36. We run Gainwell to the left for 1 yard, brings up 3rd and 5 on Jacksonville's 5. This time we run Miles Sanders to the right. Lane Johnson does a great job blocking their defensive line Gotsis, and he crashes it down. Sanders cuts to the right of the block and then cuts left behind Opeta, runs through an arm tackle. Again, only a 7-yard run, but again, an excellent job. Sanders reading blocks, running between his protection and getting 7 yards. When again, if he doesn't cut right off that block and go through behind Opeta, he doesn't get that extra 5 yards. So that gives us 1st and 10 on Jacksonville's 28. We're running the clock out now, so we run Sanders to the right. He gets 2 yards. Jacksonville calls their second timeout with 2:15 left in the game. We have 2nd and 8 on their 26. We run Sanders to the left again for 2 yards. Jacksonville calls their third timeout with 2 minutes and 10 seconds left in the game. We got 3rd and 6 on Jacksonville's 24. Hurts in the gun. RPO. Hurts keeps it. He has Gainwell right in front of him to block, but he outruns him. So he runs to the right. Gainwell's running to the right, out there to block. If he cuts off of Gainwell's back, perhaps he does get 6 yards. I don't know. But he outruns Gainwell, tries to put a move on people. It doesn't work. And on 3rd and 6, he only gets 3 yards. That brings us to the 2-minute warning. We have a 4th and 3 on Jacksonville's 21. Hurts is in the gun. They bring 4. We pick it up. A.J. Brown runs a 5-yard and out. He has a step on their corner Campbell. Hurts, unfortunately, doesn't lead A.J. Brown outside, which means that Campbell has the ability to contest the catch. It hits Brown in the hands, but he can't catch it, which is a rare occasion for A.J. Brown. He's not able to come down with a contested ball, but you can't be perfect, I guess. That incompletion gives the Jaguars the ball 1st and 10 on their own 21 with 1:54 left in the game. Lawrence is in the gun. We bring 4. Coverage is excellent downfield. Nobody's open. Reddick is wide right. He bull rushes their right tackle Taylor towards Lawrence. He then reaches through their right tackle Taylor, knocks the ball out of Lawrence's hands, and Hargrave is there to jump on it. So another strip sack by Reddick, another fumble, another turnover. We start the next drive 1st and 10 on Jacksonville's 13, and we do 3 consecutive kneel downs to end the game. The game ends score 29-21. Reddick had overall a great game. Those 2 forced fumbles were, and that's if you look back at statistics from our Super Bowl season in 2017 and compare that to specifically to the subsequent years when Hurts was pretty good before his breakdown in 2020, in 18 and 19 when Hurts still had 20 plus touchdowns and single digit interceptions. The main difference between those years and the year we went to the Super Bowl was turnover percentage. That's going to be one of the most important stats that we keep an eye on throughout the year. So let's get to some highlights, right? So, of course, offensive starters, of course, Hurts was the starting quarterback, played 100% of the game. Miles Sanders was the starting running back, played 67% of the snaps. Mulata got injured pretty early, played 7% of the snaps. Left guard Dickerson, 100%. Center Kelsey, 100%. Right guard Sayamalu got hurt as well, 76%. Right tackle Lane Johnson, 100% of the snaps. Wide receivers A.J. Brown played 85%. Devontae Smith played 87%. Dallas Goedert played 90%. Jack Stoll played 40%. Jack Driscoll in relief of an injured Mulata played 93% of the snaps. Pascal got in there for 24%. Opeta to replace Sayamalu, who was injured, got 24%. Quez Watkins, our third receiver, got 60%. And according to Pro Football Focus, through week 4, Kelsey is the second highest graded center in the NFL. Hurts stats, not amazing. He was 16 for 25 with a 64% completion percentage. He threw for 204 yards, didn't have any passing touchdowns. He did have that one interception. He was only sacked twice and only lost 13 yards. But his quarterback rating is only 72.8, most likely because his completion percentage was, 64% is I would say that's about average. And he didn't have any touchdowns. He added 16 rushes for 38 yards. That's a 2.4 average, not one of his better running games. He was named the NFC Player of the Month in September, and that's the first Eagle offensive player to win the award since good old Carson Wentz in October of 2017 in his could-have-been MVP run. Miles Sanders was our leading rusher. He had an excellent game overall. He had 27 rushes for 134 yards. That's a 5-yard per carry average. He added 2 receptions on 3 targets with 22 yards. That's an 11-yard average per reception. A.J. Brown, our leading receiver, had 5 receptions on 7 targets, 95 yards. That's an average of 19 yards per reception. He is according to Pro Football Focus, through week 4, he is the second highest wide receiver ranked. Devontae Smith had 3 receptions on 14 targets for 17 yards. That's a 5.7 average and no touchdowns. Right tackle Lane Johnson, you may have seen this stat already, hasn't allowed a quarterback hit since week 7 of the 2021 season. That's 918 snaps. He hasn't allowed a sack, knock on wood, since week 10 of the 2020 season, which is 1,105 snaps. So great job in pass protection by Lane Johnson. And he also does a good job in run protection. I don't recall having to call his name out very often. When I'm doing this in-depth game-by-game analysis. So also doing a good job on run blocking too. Defensive starters, defensive tackle Hargrave 70%, Cox 74%, and Jordan Davis was 36% of snaps, around what he typically gets. I don't know if I'm unhappy. I don't know if I want us to play him more, if I want him to get more snaps. I mean, when he's in, generally he does well, especially against the run. I think there probably is a good sweet spot where Cox is in on what are typically passing plays to rush the passer, and Jordan Davis is in there on typically running plays to clog up the middle. Defensive end, Sweat had 66% of the snaps. Linebackers, Reddick had 83%. Edwards had 96%. Corner Slay had 6% because he did get injured and was replaced by Zech McPherson. He played 94%. Bradbury played 100% of the snaps. Josiah Scott in the nickel position played 89%. And both Epps and Gardner Johnson, our safeties, each played 100% of the snaps. Brandon Graham had 43% of the snaps. Kaiser White had 77%. Milton Williams got in for 28%. And through week 4, TJ Edwards was ranked by Pro Football Focus the 3rd highest linebacker. He's having a great year. Once again, our defense did an excellent job limiting the amount of yards the opposing offense ran for. They only had 71 yards rushing and only 174 yards passing. Lawrence was 11 for 23, which is a 47.8% completion percentage, which is poor. He had 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, and he was sacked 4 times, losing 26 yards. In 17 games in 22, and this is one of the things that is a significant difference that we talked about. I talked about a minute ago. In a full season in 2021, which was 17 games, the Eagles had 29 sacks and only 6 takeaways. I think we were probably one of the last in the league in turnover differential. In the first 4 games of 2022, we've had 16 sacks, so we're more than halfway towards our full-year sack amount last year, and we have 10 takeaways, so we're almost doubling our last year's total. Our third down efficiency, we were 4 for 15, which is 26%, not very good. Jacksonville was only 2 for 7, 28.6%, still not. It's good for our defense. Fourth down efficiency, we were 3 for 5 for 60%. Jacksonville was 0 for 1. Red zone, we were 4 for 6, 67%. They were, no, that's not 67%. Is it? It is. So because 2 out of 3 is 67%, which is what Jacksonville was. Goal to go. So anytime we had the ball, first, second, third, and goal, we were 2 for 2, which is excellent. They were 1 for 2. Total net yards, we had 401. This time we relied a little heavier on the rush. We had 210 rushing yards and 191 passing. Jacksonville only had 219 yards. I mentioned 71 rushing, 148 passing. We only had 3 penalties for 20 yards. That's pretty good, below average. They had 4 for 38 yards. We had the ball almost twice as much as they did, 39 minutes and 51 seconds, while they had it 20 minutes and 9 seconds. And we ran a total of 82 plays to their 47. All right, let's get to some rankings. Let's start with the standings first. We are in first place, not only in the NFC East, but in the NFL. We are the only undefeated team left at 4-0. Of course, that means we have a 4-game win streak. The Cowgirls in the NFC East are second with a 3-1 record. They have a 3-game win streak. The Giants are 3-1. They have a 1-game win streak. And the Washington Commanders are 1-3. After winning their first game, they have lost the last 3. Our offense, we are ranked 4th in points per game with 28.8. We are ranked 2nd with 435 yards per game of offense. We have the 5th most rushing yards per game at 165.3. A little dropped down a little bit with rushing yards per attempt. We're 18th with 4.3 rushes per attempt. We are 6th in the league in passing yards per game, 270, and we are 8th in the league in completion percentage with 66.7. That is 100% Jalen Hurts. Nobody else has thrown the ball yet so far this year. Our defense, we have allowed the 9th least amount of points per game, 17.8. We are 3rd in total yards per game allowed in 277.3. We are 9th in rushing yards allowed per game, 100.3. And again, most likely because of DeAndre Swift, we are 25th in rushing yards per attempt at 5. Our defense is allowed 5 yards per rushing attempt, which is 25th in the league. We've only allowed 177 passing yards per game. That is 7th. And we are 1st in opponent quarterback completion percentage at 56.38. And I think that's that stat is one of the biggest differences. I don't know off the top of my head. I'm going to look it up while I'm talking here, but I am very confident that last year we were I don't know if we can go to last year's stats. We were probably I can't do last year. Opponent completion percentage. Oh yeah, I can change the year. 2021. So last year, we allowed an opponent's completion percentage of 69.97, which is good for dead last in the league. Jacksonville was second last. The Jets were third last. Atlanta, and so forth. But that is a significant. That is from worst to first, literally, right? In addition, our turnover margin has changed significantly as well. Let's look at our turnover margin per game in 2021. So this year we are tied for first in turnover margin per game with 2. Last year we were 19th, giving up 0.2 per game. For penalties, we're tied for 23rd with 6.5. We're not doing so well with that. Penalty yards per game, we're 19th with 48.3. All right, let's get to a little bit of news. So I mentioned we're 4-0, right? This is the 6th time in franchise history we started the season 4-0. In 2004, Andy Reid did it. We did it in 1993, 1992, 1981, and 1952. Nick Sirianni is the first Eagles head coach since Rich Kotite, if you guys remember him, in 1992 to start 4-0 in one of his first 2 NFL seasons as a coach. We've won 7 straight regular season games that Jalen Hurts has started. That's the longest active streak in the NFL. I mentioned that his regular season games. Of course, Jalen Hurts lost in a playoff game last year. Hurts has the second best winning percentage. He's 10-2. It's .833 if you go back to week 8 in 2021. Number 1 is Patrick Mahomes. He's 12-2. We lead the league with 10 takeaways, and we have a league low 2 giveaways, giving us the best turnover differential of +8, and that's the best differential we've had since 1970. What's up, Fresh Juice Life on Instagram? We have the best turnover margin through week 4 since Detroit in 2017 at +9. Our 435.4 yards per game is the second most that an Eagles team has put up since 1970. And the most that we've ever put up is in 2013. We did 58.8 yards per game. We are the 6th NFL team since the 1970 merger of the AFL and NFL to have over 10 rushing touchdowns through week 4. We lead the NFL in explosive plays with 49. We lead the NFL in sacks with 16. We're the only team with 5 players who have multiple sacks. We lead the NFL in forced 3-and-outs with 21. Jalen Hurts ranks 2nd in total offense with 1,325 total yards, and he leads the league in explosive plays with 35. Hassan Reddick leads the NFL in strip sacks with 3, forced fumbles with 3, and fumble recoveries He's tied for the lead with 2. And he was recently named the NFC Defensive Player of the Week. So that means every game so far this year, we have had a Player of the Week. Week 1 was Zech McPherson, Special Teams Player of the Week. Week 2 was Jalen Hurts, Offensive Player of the Week. Week 3, Brandon Graham, Defensive Player of the Week. And now, Week 4, Reddick, Defensive Player of the Week. Who's it going to be this week? Eagles lead the league with 85 second quarter points through Week 4. The second next team only has 48. 40 of our 85 points have been scored within the final 4 minutes of the second quarter. We've done an excellent job driving down the field, even long drives late in the second quarter to get a score before the half. Our point differential in the last 4 minutes of the second quarter is 33. That leads the league, and second place only has 14. A lot of great stats. Most importantly, and I've said it a million times, is that turnover differential. That is by far, I think, that and the opponent quarterback completion percentage is the most significant turnaround since last year. Roster moves. A couple of things happened, right? We signed kicker Cameron Dicker to the practice squad. I don't know if this really was his name. It was late when I was typing this. Dicker is the kicker. Perhaps it is. Anyway, we signed him to the practice squad. Jake Elliott has that ankle injury and doesn't seem like he's going to be ready. So Cameron Dicker is most likely going to be our kicker on Sunday. We released tight end Dalton Keene from the practice squad. We signed Britton Covey to the 53-man roster from the practice squad. We signed guard Tyrese Robson to the practice squad. And we did activate the 21-day window for Andre Dillard to come back onto the team. So he's now allowed to practice and can return in the next 21 days, which is important now that Malata went out with an injury, although that isn't quite as serious as we thought. Speaking of injuries, let's get to a quick injury update. I mentioned Jack Elliott. He is most likely going to be out against Arizona, and we will have Cameron Dicker as our kicker against Arizona. Kyron Johnson didn't practice because of a concussion. So did Patrick Johnson. Avonte Maddox didn't practice because of an ankle. Now, Jordan Mailata didn't practice 2 days ago because of his shoulder, but he had an MRI, and they found out that it wasn't as serious as they thought. He is day-to-day, and there's a chance that he plays against Arizona. Boston Scott has a rib. He was limited. Isaac Seumalo had an ankle and was limited. And Darius Slay had a forearm. He was full participant and most likely will play on Sunday. A little bit of news, NFL news. Through week 4, they have been an average of 11.8 penalties assessed for 96.9 yards per game. Creep Blakeman has the highest with 63 penalties in 4 games with 565 yards in penalties. Bill Vinovich is the lowest with 22 penalties for 150 penalty yards. You guys, this is you most likely have seen all the stuff with Tua Tagovailoa. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he was hit 2 weeks ago and stood up and was woozy, went to the sideline. Apparently he passed concussion protocol, ended up going back into the game later that day, finished the game. Then last week got thrown down as a sack, hit his head again, and left the game again with a concussion due to those recent injuries. And in fact, some people got fired. I think the NFL's independent guy on the field that looks at these injuries was fired because he didn't follow protocols. But the NFLPA and the NFL are expected to agree on new protocols that state that anytime any player demonstrates any instability, he stands up and he's shaky, he immediately is pulled from the game and is not allowed to return, regardless of if he can regain stability and wants to come back. So Jonathan Gustine on Instagram asked me, what's my prediction for Sunday's game? Oh, that's a good one. I think we're going to do well against Kyler Murray. He's a running quarterback, but I think we have quick linebackers, and I think that Jordan Davis is a big. If he's in, I think he's going to have the ability to stop the middle and go after Kyler Murray. I think we're going to do well. I would say that our secondary, it depends on if Slay is healthy. He should be and comes back, which means we're gonna have him instead of McPherson. I don't know about Maddox. I don't know what he's looking like. It sounds like he didn't practice, but I haven't heard that how he feels about the game. I think it's probably not likely that he plays. But Josiah Scott did an okay job. I would say that if Maddox doesn't play, they're a little bit more successful against the pass, and they pick on Josiah Scott. But perhaps we rush more often. I see us going there and winning. I think we have a good chance of winning. And I think our offensive line, if healthy, if especially if Mailata is able to make it, which it sounds like he will, I think we'll do a good job of holding their rush back. Hopefully, Hurts looks down the field more often, doesn't run as much. But I say we win. And I think we do. Let's see what I say. I say we win. I'm going to say. I say 35-27 in favor of the Eagles. I think they're going to score. I think we're going to score, but I think we end up ahead. I'm not saying that, and I think Jalen Hurts has a solid game. So 35-27 in favor of the Eagles. That's my prediction for Sunday. Jonathan Gustin on Instagram. Okay, let's move to the Bald Eagle fact. One of my favorite parts of the podcast. The Bald Eagle fact is essentially I'm a huge Eagles fan, and I have been for I don't know 30 some years, but I don't remember a lot of shit. I watched all the games, but I have a shitty memory. I mentioned that before, so I reach back and I look at significant things in the Eagles. I look back to I've been going through all of our seasons starting in 1933 when we joined the NFL. I've been looking at our head coaches throughout the years. We've talked about our Pro Bowlers. And one of the things we've talked about is all the people that have been inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame that have been Philadelphia Eagles, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're up to the 7th Philadelphia Eagle to have been inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That was Tommy Mcdonald. Tommy Mcdonald was intentionally held back by his dad in 8th grade so he could grow and be bigger compared to his schoolmates. He transferred to Highland High School in Albuquerque, New Mexico, as a junior, as a freshman. As a senior, he averaged 20 yards a carry and set the state scoring record of 57 points. As a running back, he set the city scoring record in basketball and earned 5 gold medals in a state track meet. The 100, 220, the low hurdles, and the two relays. I'm not sure what that is. I'm not a track guy. He ended up getting a football scholarship from the University of Oklahoma. In 1953, he played on the freshman team. In 1954, he was the backup running back. He had 27 carries for 128 yards. That is a 4.74 yard per carry average. And he added 2 receptions for 28 yards and 2 touchdowns. In 1955, he was named the starting running back. He led the team that year in rushing yards with 715 on 114 carries. He also led the team with 16 rushing touchdowns. He had 7 receptions for 110 yards, which was second on the team. And he tied for the team lead with 1 receiving touchdown. He was the first player in school history to score a touchdown in every game of a season in 1955. In 1956, for the University of Oklahoma, he led the team with 119 rushes for 853 yards, 12 rushing touchdowns. He also added 12 receptions for 282 yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. He received the Maxwell Award, which is given to the most outstanding college football player, and he was 3rd in Heisman Trophy voting. He was selected in the 3rd round, 31st overall in the 1957 NFL Draft by the Philadelphia Eagles. His rookie year, he moved from running back to wide receiver. In his 7-year stint with the Eagles, which went from 1957 to 1963, he started in 72 of the 88 games he played. He had 287 receptions for 5,499 yards. That is a 19.2 yard perception average, and he had 66 touchdowns. He led the NFL with 9 receiving touchdowns in 1958. He led the NFL with 1,144 receiving yards, led the NFL with 13 receiving touchdowns, and led the NFL with 81.7 receiving yards per game in 1961. He also, in a single game against the New York Giants, set the Eagles' single game record with 7 receptions for 237 yards and 2 touchdowns, and that record still stands today. In 1964, we traded him away for Sam Baker, John Myers, and Lynn Hoem. He played 1 year in Dallas. Then he went to Atlanta. He was 2 years at the Rams, and then 1 last year in Cleveland. In 1961, he scored a 35-yard touchdown to help the Eagles win their 2nd NFL championship. He is a 2-time first-team All-Pro in 1959 and 1960, a 3-time second-team All-Pro in 1959, 1961, and 1962. He's a 6-time Pro Bowler. He was to the Pro Bowl from 1958 to 1962, and then again in 1965. He's a 2-time college football national champion. This is interesting, I thought. He was the last non-kicker to wear a helmet without a face mask. He was part of the Pro Football Hall of Fame all-decade team of the 1960s. And in 1968, when he retired, he was 6th all-time NFL in receptions with 495. He was 4th all-time in receiving yards with 8,910. And he was 2nd all-time in receiving touchdowns with 84. All right. I mentioned a couple of times throughout my podcast the Philly Sports Alliance and the lineup of shows that we have. Take a look, see at all of these shows we got for you. And let me tell you what they're all about here. So on Mondays, we have the Football Smack Talk show. That is all NFL, all 32 teams, and that's hosted by Ryan Reese and Eric Ward. Mondays at 7:30, you have the Diamond Club podcast. The Diamond Club podcast is an all Phillies podcast, and that features John Hunter, Chris Lahiff, and Danny Hart. Tuesdays at 6:30, the Philly Broadcast. So we focus on all 4 major Philly sports. So we talk about the Sixers, we talk about the Flyers, Eagles, and Phillies. So you get all 4 sports at the Philly Broadcast. That's 6:30s on Tuesday, and that is hosted by Ryan Reese and Ryan Finneran. Generally Wednesdays at 6. I've had a couple of issues the last 2 weeks. First, the game was on a Monday night, so I didn't have time. And then, personal issues yesterday, so I pushed it one day. But generally Wednesdays at 6 o'clock, you're watching the Bald Eagle podcast, 100% Philadelphia Eagles, the most in-depth play-by-play analysis. Wednesdays after my show, 8 o'clock is Mike Sports. Mike Sports is a football podcast, all NFL. Now, the interesting part about Mike Sports is that the host, Eric Ward and Jay Landry. Eric Ward is an Eagles fan. Jay Landry is a Cowgirls fan. So there's a lot of tension going on Mixed Sports, but a great show to get caught up on all of the NFL. Thursdays at 5:30, Tendies on Pattison. That is a Flyers show hosted by Paul Bacho, Jack Griffin, and Chris Lahiff. And last but not least, Thursdays at 7, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs. I think I enjoy that the most because I know the least about wrestling, which is what they talk about, wrestling. So check out all of those shows. I mentioned before, go to the Philly Sports Alliance, like, share, comment, go to the Painted Lines, do the same thing. Check out Six Pack Coverage and all the podcasts they have about everything from entertainment to sports to fitness to finance, and follow and like everything of the Bald Eagle. Now, if you're looking me up, you have to go and look up the Bald Eagle podcast. I'm not quite popular enough to supplant all of actual Bald Eagle stuff. So the Bald Eagle podcast on every social media channel, follow, like, share, and go Birds.